Hey guys, I'm Kristin Llamas and I'm coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm an artist and I'm going to show you how to stretch your own canvas today. And I just wanted to kind of walk through the process of how I stretch my canvas. It's not always the same for everybody, but this works for me. I tend to use the rolled fredrix canvas. The quality of the primed canvas is really good. And I buy this just again in the roll. It's the cotton canvas. You can find it in any of your art stores or online. And I'm pretty lucky because my husband is a little bit skilled in building, and so he builds all my stretcher bars for me, and it saves me a fortune because I paint rather large. For these pieces here, they're not too big, but this one here. So I'll show you also the way he does the stretcher bars is the cross bracing is very important. Even the stretcher bars that you buy, for instance, in the art stores and everything, a lot of times they're very thin here and they don't have enough bracing to where if you pull your canvas too tight or while you paint, if the canvas pulls tighter, these bars will actually twist and not sit flush against the wall anymore. So having a really well constructed stretcher bar is very important, and sometimes that means spending a little bit more money on it. But if you're going to spend all that time and energy on a painting, and if a client's going to buy it for, $5,000, you don't want them to get home and not have it sit flush on their wall. So with these are a great little size, pretty manageable. All I do here is I make sure that I have the right size on here, and I always stretch my canvas to where it's gallery wrapped, so it'll go around the edge. And I can either measure, like for my big canvases, I won't lay it down, I'll just measure it and I'll add 3 inches on either side, and then I'll cut my canvas to fit that. And I have, so I find my scissors, let me see.
Here.
Oh, you're there. Okay, so a super awesome trick for canvas and cutting canvas is it rips really easily. And fredrix canvas specifically is very straight when you rip it. You can rip it right on the threads. And then you don't have to worry about cutting a jagged edge or anything on your own. So just rip nice and easy. I learned that actually because I would buy fabric by the yard. And when I first started buying fabric by the yard at the fabric store, they would rip the fabric instead of always cutting it. And I was like, that's a cool trick. Instead of slicing your canvas. All right. So now I've got a great size piece. My studio floor, I mopped it yesterday, so it's pretty clean. But if not, you can always lay down a drop cloth. So I flip it over the primed side. This white side you can see is primed. That's going to be face down. The other thing about your stretcher bars, there should be a side of your stretcher bars that has this indent right here. And then this is the side where the wood is flush. You never want to have the flush wood on the front, because when you paint with your brush, the brush will hit that as it gives into the canvas, and you're going to see lines from this. So you always want to have this indented space, and that'll just give you a little bit of space to move your canvas in. So I lay that down like so. just a handheld stapler. They're not that expensive, the little metal staplers that you have to push down on. But I was stretching so much canvas that it was killing my hands. So I finally upgraded a few years ago. And let me grab some more staples because I'm gonna get low. So with this, it's very easy. You just take it, it's like a little gun. It's got an on and off button. I haven't stapled my hand yet, so knock on wood, but I always go from the centers out to the corners. So I start here. I gotta turn my power strip on. So I'll do a couple in the center. The other tool I have is this handy dandy little clamp stretcher. I don't know what it's called. Some kind of clamp. But you'll find it in an art store. It's great to grab on. When I grab onto the canvas, I fold over a piece so that I'm not pulling just one width, because I don't want to rip my canvas. So I just give it here, I just give it a little bit of a gentle tug. Don't really need it in the beginning to start because you can kind of just hand pull it, but we'll use it more as we get further. So I'll do 3 across. If they don't go flush, I'll hammer them down. And I always go on the opposite side here. And this is where I'll give it a little tug. And I'll fold it over again, and I'll just give it a little tug. You want to get pretty tight, but not too tight to where you end up tearing the canvas. And I have done that before, and it is no fun. Again, I'll just do 3 here. And when I pull this, I want to get in close here. When I pull, instead of just pulling straight up, a lot of times I'll turn, I kind of lean out a little, and you'll see like this little bubble here. If I lean out, kind of like pulling on an angle, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but now it's just habit. So it just takes, it's like anything else, just a little bit of practice. Then I'll go to these sides, same thing, and I'll pull it. You can see this middle bubble will flatten out a little, like so. Once it gets pretty flat, I'm good. And one of the things that I'm doing every time I put my staple gun down, there's this little button right here, and that's on, that's off. So I get in the habit of turning it off every time I set it down, just so I don't accidentally staple myself. And again, it's one of those things I don't even realize I do anymore, but just something to make note of. Safety first. I'll tell you, if you invest in a good staple gun and one of these little clamps, the only other tool you need is a chop saw, and you will save a fortune in canvas and buying, especially if you paint large like any of these big pieces, you'll save a fortune. So your materials cost will go way down. And as a starting out artist, or an artist who's trying to just kind of, grow and get their work sold, you don't want to put a bunch of money into the pieces if you don't have to, because we all know that it's hard to start out and get into the art world and actually start making money off of your art, because we put a lot of hours into painting. So So if we can save money on the front end, it's really helpful. And that whole roll of canvas right there was only $50. So I'm gonna get, actually it's right there. I'm gonna get a ton of canvas or stretch canvas out of it by just going to the lumber store. You just go to Lowe's or Home Depot and finding these. I think they're 1 inch by 1.5 pieces of wood. And so now what I'm going to do, I can go further. I can go down into my corners a little bit more, and I'm going to do opposite corners. So I'm going to go, I'll start here, and I'll just kind of go up a little bit. And I won't get too close to the corner just yet, because I'll show you. Oh, my gun's trying to double shoot. So I'm just kind of coming up the line here. I'm going to stop about there. It's, I mean, what is that, like 7 inches from the side? And I'll do a couple more on this corner. I just want to get it a little bit closer. And I'll pull this side a little bit closer also, just one more staple. And the corners, this part's pretty easy, going straight down. The corners are the trickiest part. So over here, let me turn this way. I'm gonna go opposite corners. If you are working on one of these large canvases, like this one right here, it's gonna take a little bit longer, but you definitely wanna go opposite corner to opposite corner. This guy that I'm working on now, it's small enough and manageable enough that I'm not going to have to worry about any wonky areas, because there's not that much space for the canvas to stretch. But it's also one of the reasons why it's so important to get high quality canvas, because if you get just any canvas, thin canvas, and you start stretching something that large, you are going to find yourself in trouble where you just can't pull it tight enough. And then when you go to paint, you're going to have a lot of give. And you want to have this canvas nice and tight. So I'm just coming in again on either side, chipping away. And we used to, when I was in art school, we used 2x4s for our canvases. That's how we were taught to build them. Oh my goodness, those things were so heavy. When you would go to hang those on your wall, you would need to find a stud, because 2x4s, especially once you get large in canvas, 2x4s are not very light. And so over the years, I've learned that using this nice thin wood, it's really straight edge. These cross braces we can use the cheaper wood for, but these are the higher end, I guess it's just pine, and it's real straight. You have to kind of pay attention when you're purchasing it to make sure none of them are, going banana shaped on you or anything. The last thing you want is a canvas that's not really square. So thing is that you don't have to stretch your canvas before you paint. Sometimes I'll paint the backgrounds of my canvas, and then I'll go and stretch them afterwards. Okay, so now you can see I still have that other corner to get to, but you can see already how tight the center's gotten. And once we pull our corners, all these wrinkles are gonna come out here. The general rule of thumb is to always have your corners fold on whatever side. So the sides of your canvas versus the top and bottom, because visually when you look at a canvas, if it's at all, there's a bump at the top or the bottom, for some reason our eyes see those bumps and they it'll be a distraction and it'll look like your canvas is not square. So, and I know it's portrait style, so I know that I need to make my corners fold on these two sides. And the way to do that is you take this part here and you just push with your finger like that, and it makes, can you see that all right? So if I push in, I'm gonna push that flat, it kind of makes this little triangle. And then you can push this part down here. So see this little triangle there? And then I take this piece here and I fold it over. So you want everything to line up square. Let's try to make it so you guys can see. But see how that's going square? So you've got like a triangle shape in there. And can you see that triangle right there? See this little triangle here? I don't know how easy that is to see in the canvas. But that's a general idea. So you kind of fold down and then you fold up. And you've got this nice little triangle shape. So I always do that before I get too close to the edge, because as I move around, I'm gonna wanna make sure I keep that in the place it needs to be. So there's that. So I just get a little bit closer. This edge is gonna be covered, so I can pull my corner tight here. And I want my corner to be nice and tight. And I can go all the way to this edge, because I know this edge is going to be covered by that fabric, that canvas. And I gotta see how much give that has when I pull. Makes a big difference. So now I know I've got, that's gonna be folded down. My corner here is gonna come up, and again, I'll just give that a little tug, and I'll fold nice and neatly over this side. And before I go and I start attaching my corner, I want it to be here. I want to pull this part tight. So this part, you're gonna just take it, it's a little bit more to grab, but you wanna just take it and kind of give it a tug, like so. You can see how much that gives, and then you pull it down. Nice and tight. And I'll always do this little bit here first. I'm probably making it look more complicated than it even is, because I'm trying to show you guys. All right, there we go. So then this one is here, and this one is there. So at the end, you have a nice flush corner. You can see that corner there. And of course, I can wash that up. I got a little dirty running around on my floor. But there's corner number one, and then you go across and do all the other corners. I think I can get these on. And then again, I'll show you this one more time. We're gonna take this corner here. This is gonna be the side that goes flat. And this is gonna be the side that we push in. and make our little triangle. And then this side here, while we're making our triangle, we want to kind of line it up with the edge. So we're going to come up with it like so. And that's going to fold over like that. So it's the general fold. So now I know that I have to come all the way to the edge with the staples on this side. So making that triangle and come up with it. And all right, and there you have it. We've finished stretching all 4 corners. And the most important part is it is nice and tight, and you're not going to have any type of give, and everything's nice and smooth, and we are ready to paint.